Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the channel. And today I'm going to give my review of King of the Ring 1994. Starting off the evening, we'll go to our first match of the night. It is a King of the Ring tournament matchup. It is Razor Ramon versus Bam Bam Bigelow. I thought this was a good matchup to open up King of the Ring 1994. Back and forth matchup between both Razor and Bigelow, with Razor keeping the pace of the match. Bigelow then hits a step-up enziguri on Razor. Bigelow then goes for a moonsault off the top rope, but Razor throws Bigelow off the top rope into a roll-up, pins him for the 3, and your winner of the match. And moving on in the 1994 King of the Ring tournament is Razor Ramon. Hats off to Razor Ramon for getting the win in that matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It is another King of the Ring tournament matchup. It is IRS versus Mabel. I thought this was a relatively good matchup as well. Back and forth matchup between both IRS and Mabel, with Mabel keeping the pace of the match. Mabel then hits a devastating Northern Lights suplex on IRS. IRS then gets up, hits an elbow drop on Mabel. Mabel then goes for a top rope maneuver, but IRS knocks Mabel off the middle rope. IRS then hits a roll up on Mabel, pinning him for the 3. And moving on in the King of the Ring tournament is IRS. Hats off to IRS for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It is another King of the Ring tournament matchup. It is Owen Hart versus Tatanka. Again, I thought this was a great matchup. Back and forth matchup between both Owen Hart and Tatanka, with Tatanka keeping the pace of the match. Owen hits a gut-wrench suplex on Tatanka. Tatanka then hits a power slam on Owen. It looked absolutely devastating. Owen then gets up, hits a roll-up on Tatanka, pins him for the 3, and moving on in the King of the Ring tournament is Owen Hart. Hats off to Owen Hart for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It is Jeff Jarrett versus the 1-2-3 Kid in another King of the Ring tournament matchup. This matchup was good. Back and forth matchup between both Jarrett and the 1-2-3 Kid, with Jarrett keeping the pace of the match. 1-2-3 Kid ends up hitting a spin kick on Jeff Jarrett. 1-2-3 Kid then hits a crossbody off the top rope on Jarrett as well. Jarrett then goes for a figure 4 leg lock, but 1-2-3 Kid ends up hitting a roll-up instead, pinning Jarrett for the 3, and your winner of the match. And moving on to the King of the Ring tournament is 1-2-3 Kid. After the match, though, Jeff Jarrett ends up attacking the 1-2-3 Kid, injuring his leg, and it looks like 1-2-3 Kid might not make it to within the King of the Ring tournament. But hats off to the 1-2-3 Kid for getting the win in that matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It is Diesel versus Bret Hart for the WWE Championship. I thought this was a fantastic matchup. Back and forth matchup between both Diesel and Bret Hart. Diesel and Hart both exchange in the middle of the ring, with Bret Hart keeping the pace of the match. Hart is working on the legs of Diesel. Hart then applies a figure 4 leg lock on Diesel, but Diesel breaks the hold. Shawn then hits a clothesline on Hart with the referee being distracted. Diesel then hits a sidewalk slam on Bret Hart. Diesel then takes off the turnbuckle pad. Hart then sends Diesel into the exposed turnbuckle. Hart then applies a sharpshooter, and then Diesel breaks the hold again. Shawn then hits Hart with the championship title with the referee being distracted. Diesel then hits his signature jackknife powerbomb on Bret Hart. Jim Neidhart is here. He ends up attacking Diesel. Referee calls the match, and Diesel wins this match by disqualification. Hats off to Diesel for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It is IRS versus Razor Ramon in a King of the Ring semifinal match. This match, it was a good matchup. Back and forth matchup between both IRS and Razor Ramon, with Razor keeping the pace of the match. And Razor ultimately hits his signature Razor's Edge on Irwin R. Schyster, pinning him for the 3. And moving on in the King of the Ring tournament is Razor Ramon. Hats off to Razor Ramon for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It's another King of the Ring semifinal match. It is Owen Hart versus the 1-2-3 Kid. I thought this was a really good matchup. Back and forth matchup between both Owen and the 1-2-3 Kid, with Owen keeping the pace of the match. 1-2-3 Kid then hits a crossbody on Owen. Owen then gets up, hits a step-up enziguri on the 1-2-3 Kid. 1-2-3 Kid then hits a senton over the rope to Owen to the outside. Owen then applies his signature sharpshooter on the 1-2-3 Kid, and your winner of the match by submission. And moving on in the King of the Ring tournament is Owen Hart. Hats off to Owen Hart for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It is a tag team championship matchup. It is Yokozuna and Crush versus the Head Shrinkers. I thought this was a relatively good matchup. Back and forth matchup between both teams, with the Head Shrinkers keeping the pace of the match. Crush then hits a leg drop. Lex Luger ends up walking down the aisle, causing a distraction with Crush. Fatu then capitalizes on that distraction, hits a super kick on Crush, pins for the 3, and your winners of the match. And still, at that time, WWE Tag Team Champions are the Head Shrinkers. Hats off to the Head Shrinkers for getting the win in that matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It is the King of the Ring final. It is Owen Hart versus Razor Ramon. I thought this was a great matchup. Back and forth matchup between both Owen and Razor, with Owen keeping the pace of the match. Razor then hits a devastating chokeslam on Owen Hart. Razor then goes for Razor's edge, but Owen sends Razor out of the ring. Jim Neidhart then is here. Neidhart ends up attacking Razor Ramon. Owen then capitalizes on this, hits an elbow drop off the top rope on Razor Ramon, pinning him for the 3, and your winner of the match and the 1994 King of the Ring is Owen Hart. Hats off to Owen Hart for getting the win in that matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It is the main event of the King of the Ring 1994. It is Jerry the King Lawler versus Roddy Piper. I thought it was a okay matchup. Back and forth matchup between both Lawler and Piper, with Piper keeping the pace of the match. But Piper ultimately hits a back suplex on Jerry the King Lawler, pinning him for the 3, and your winner of the match is Roddy Piper. A couple of things I'm going to say about the King of the Ring 1994 before I get out of here, man. Number one, King of the Ring, to me, is one of the best events WWE ever put together. And it's really a damn shame what they've done with the King of the Ring as of lately. I think they made a complete mockery of the King of the Ring as of late. King of the Ring back in the day, man, was absolutely phenomenal. You had some of the best wrestlers go up against each other at one time in a tournament to decide who the King of the Ring was of that year. And the matches were not that bad, man. I mean, you had Owen Hart versus Tantaka, which was a good matchup. The opening matchup between Razor Ramon and Bam Bam Bigelow could have main evented any pay-per-view around the world. Diesel versus Bret Hart for the WWE Championship was absolutely phenomenal. Owen Hart versus the 1-2-3 Kid was a great matchup as well. And then obviously the King of the Ring final. You have Owen Hart versus Razor Ramon. You know, despite it technically not being the main event, and the main event for some reason was Jerry Lawler versus Roddy Piper. To me, the main event of King of the Ring 1994 was the King of the Ring finals. It was Owen Hart versus Razor Ramon. They put on a phenomenal matchup. And honestly, I was torn between two, man. I wanted Owen Hart to win this tournament, and he did. But I also wanted Razor Ramon to get the win as well. I was a big Razor Ramon fan growing up. Rest in peace to Scott Hall, a.k.a. Razor Ramon. But Owen Hart and Razor Ramon, man, they actually did a phenomenal matchup. Fantastic match. And again, hats off to Owen for getting the win in that matchup and becoming the King of the Ring in 1994. But as far as giving a rating for King of the Ring 1994 from a 1 out of 10, man, I'm going to give it a solid 7 at best, man. 93 King of the Ring was absolutely phenomenal. Bret Hart getting the win. A lot of really good matches on that. I think I gave that a rating of an 8, especially it being the first King of the Ring. But 1994's King of the Ring was right behind that, man. It had a lot of good, notable matchups. And obviously, Owen Hart, you know, becoming the King of the Ring in 1994 was really special. And honestly, looking back on it, you had two brothers win the King of the Ring back-to-back. You had Bret Hart winning in 93, and then you had Owen Hart winning in 1994, which is absolutely phenomenal, man. Which obviously set up a humongous storyline between both Owen and Bret. And, you know, stemming from the King of the Ring days. So, but yeah, I'm going to give King of the Ring 1994 a solid 7 at best, man. But this is my review of King of the Ring 1994. I hope you guys are out there staying safe. Be careful, and remember, stay classy.